My chopping board is broken. I made this chopping board. It's pretty. It was massive. I broke it cutting a red cabbage. I want to fix this chopping board. I lived in the very heart of Brighton for 10 years. I love Brighton. However, as natural progression kicks in, I've done what a lot of people hurtling towards middle age do. Move to the outskirts. So now, I'm in God's waiting room, a small village just to the east called Rottingdean. It's not so much that I dislike Rottingdean, but I do miss Brighton. Who knows, but there are minor things in Rotters that gripe me something fierce. This really skinny pavement does my head in. Simon, if Rottingdean is such a curse, then why are you there? I'll tell you for why. This garage. I moved here at the beginning of the year, but as you can see, it's a ruddy pigsty. I got my stuff here, but that's where the moving in seemed to halt. The time has come to sort this out and give the tools I worked so hard to acquire a place to live that they deserve. Transform this absolute dog heap into a workable space. I want to fix this chopping board. Wanna go walkies? So, I'm certainly not going to be winning any Woodworker of the Year awards for this, but hey, it's going to make my life a hell of a lot easier, and I'm excited. For those of you that think this might be a how-to video, I would not follow the demented drawings of a man like myself. So I'm going to start with a big workbench in the middle of the garage, somewhere for my table saw, nice and plush, maybe some kind of removable router table here, and I'm going to have to make it out of the cheapest possible materials. So I'm reckoning 10 to 12 2x4s and one 12mm sheet of plywood. Wheels, wheels could be an optional luxury extra, but they can be added after the fact. Let's order it.
Is this your workshop?
It will be. First things first, I got to tidy a space to work in without getting too distracted by all the weird and wonderful shit I find. Had some out-of-date resin overflow. Any tips on how to clean that off the floor? Love that. Okay, so now I've got the greatest commodity in Western society, space. In true Simon style, I'm not really going to work off of any woodworking plans. They're all quite specific to the brand of table saw, etc, etc. So I'm going to do what I usually do, and it usually works, which is just fang it. So I'm going to start by building a frame which will eventually be the base. I think that's the way to go. I guess my biggest worry is wobbliness in the legs, but I've built tables before, just not huge tables that bear a load of weight out of really shit materials. But yeah, that's my worry, is wobbly legs, but I've got some ways around that as well. So I'm going to use these nifty little corner clamps to do my best to keep it square. They're really good. I think they're for making picture frames. Well, that's what I've used them for predominantly. But it ain't stupid if it works. It's completed! Yeah, I'm happy with how stable that is. Now, as lovely as that frame is, I can't work on it at that height, which means I need some legs. I need to make some legs. Now, I'm a touch taller than your average bean, and in fact, your average person. So I'm going to make my legs a little bit higher. So the working height for a kitchen countertop is 900 millimeters. And when I'm cooking in people's kitchens, I tend to get a bit of a sore back. So I think I'm going to do this at 1 meter. All in all, I'd call that a successful erection. Now I just need to do braces and stretchers, but I was being stingy when I ordered wood, so I'm maybe 2 pieces short. Times like this, I curse the fact that I can't drive, but it's an excuse for me and Shawnee to take a little adventure. Isn't it, buddy? What do you think? Lovely, isn't it? Boom. So, got myself some new wood. Took a little bit of time. Let's brace up these legs. Stop it wobbling. Stretches are good, so our sort of forward and back wobble is pretty minimum, but our left to right is pretty terrible. So I think it's time for braces, which is a step I was really hoping I could avoid. But such is life, tough shit. Yeah, those are some nice looking legs. Anyway, enough about me, back to the table. It's nice and strong now. I was really hoping I'd just get away with the stretchers, but the braces have made a world of difference. Bit of extra time, super glad I did it. The whole point is that it's a stable working spot. Chuffed with that. Did, however, make one minor faux pas. This is where all the controls will lay to raise and lower the saw blade and on and off. But I do have a solution. Sorted, easy as that. More often than not, the simple solution is the solution. So I'm just battling with a few minor logistical problems. Little notches and stuff that I'll need to make all this mechanism work. I do want this table to still slide and extend, and I certainly need the fence to work. So that's no issue. I think I can notch out some without taking too much. This is causing me a little bit of hassle though, the lock-in mechanism. Drop down, suspend it on some kind of rails, come at it underneath. How do dragons blow out their birthday? I'm definitely going to need to use the laser. I'm back and I've had some thinking time, which I'm pretty glad about. So I think to get the table saw to where I need it to be, I'm going to come at it from the bottom. So I'm going to build a shelf along here and then do some sort of struts across to give me the height. And that should do it. I'm going to give myself a couple of millimeters margin for error because I can always shim the saw up. If I make it too high, then I can't come back down. Done some leveling the old school way.
Yes, see the bubble? I'm familiar with the bubble, Morty.
Table's nice and flat, and I'm also feeling level-headed, which means it's time for the exciting part. Lasers. So, as you can see, I've done this bottom shelf that the saw will sit on. I'm going to put some 6mm ply along it, just make it look a bit neater, try and raise that saw up a bit to the height I need. I've decided to move this across a bit, and that will reduce me having to cut sort of all the cornery stuff up over there, which is kind of structural. I didn't want to notch it all out for the sake of the mechanics. I'm going to move it all forwards a bit. Fingers crossed that will work. That was a cool shot. I think slight change of plan before I put my shelf in. I'm going to draw out how I'm going to cut this tabletop ply so that it all fits nicely. So I think if I mark out the tabletop, I think that might be some genius forward thinking for a change. Boom. So my next hurdle is notching this part out. It's starting to rain and it's pretty flipping horrible outside, so this is a problem for next time. It's another day. Let's get to notching. I had some options there. I could have used the oscillating saw, multi-tool, whatever you want to call it, but that's quite a janky cut. So I went with the curve cut because it's satisfying as fuck to do, and it's a nice, neat, consistent sort of height now. Job's good. The moment we've all been waiting for. Oh, look at that. Butthole tight. It's a beautiful thing. Chuffed with it. Woo! Well, that all went a lot smoother than I could have ever hoped for, so I'm chuffed with that. Now it's time to get started on a router table just here. So I'll cut that out, gnaw it out to depth, and we'll be good to go. So the issue I was always going to have with the router is through 12mm ply. When I've got a bit in there, it won't safely allow me to raise above the sheet of plywood. I've learned this lesson before when I tried to make a router table, which I've been using for the last 4 years. So I'm going to have to router out a piece here that's 6mm deep and sink in a 6mm piece of plywood for the router to sort of sit in. That's the plan. Uncle Sam, if you're watching this, this is bringing back some serious flashbacks to your countertop. I think it's time to call it a day. I'm just going to glue up what I have done, glue it to this surface. I don't need to ever remove it, I don't think. So I'm just going to glue this on, weigh it down, have a bit of a tidy up, But what a day, eh? Chuffed with the progress. So chuffed with how that saw's fit in. And pretty chuffed with how this is fitting in, actually. All in all, productive day. My little router bit is all in place now, nice and flush. I glued it all in, weighed it all down with a bucket full of heavy stuff. And after work, I was sanding it down so it's nice and plush and flush. I don't want my router, hardly know her, to be on the piss at all for any trimming or mouldings or anything like that. Now I'm going to move on to putting a light chamfer in the edge, just because I want to. Yeah, I don't need to justify it. In putting in that chamfer, I've decided to sink the miter saw into the table as well. Something I was kind of toying with for a while. I see it a lot. You see these fancy ones where the miter saw flips in and out of the table. I haven't quite got that gusto into me, but I've got a spare bit of 12mm ply from somewhere. So I'm going to cut this out into a box and sort of sink it into the table and just have a sacrificial piece that comes on and off when I'm not using the miter saw. Irritatingly enough, the depth of this is dangerously close to the width of the plywood. So I think I need to make a piece of plywood to go underneath and glue that on. And hopefully that'll give me the required depth I need. Yeah. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I needed to do the T-channel anyway. It was inevitably gonna become a problem at some point, eh? Whilst that glue dries over there for my table saw routery bit, I may as well stick a little shelf in here. I've got this 6mm piece of ply left over from a job, and I've still got just these 2 bits which are just about long enough to make a little shelf under here. Stick all my crap and rubbish and start to think about maybe tidying this place up a little bit. You know? Another sprucey little odd job I could be getting on with whilst I'm waiting for that glue to set over there is I need some power, or easily accessible power. So I'm going to router, hardly know her, a little circle here so I can thread plugs and stuff through. Thinking, always thinking, always thinking. Right, well, it's starting to get dark. I think I've done a good day of little tiny odd jobs and tweaks. Chuffed with my progress. Another 6 months, 7 months, we might even be done. Alright, let's get this mother-loving miter saw in place. It goes to show that taking a little breather, a couple of days here and there, really does give you the luxury of time to think it through, or think of a simpler or cooler or more effective way. So what I think I've landed on is I'm going to start by cutting my slot over the 2x4s, and then I can get a decent measurement, cut the base shelf for this to size, and then it should be a case of just cutting the equal height of the sort of plate of this miter saw flush with the table, and then kind of just bolting it to the pre-existing 2x4s. I think that is the path of less resistance. Woo! Well, that went pretty flipping well. It's a shame about the kerf of the blade, but you know what they say, can't make an omelette without breaking wind. Look at that. Tighter than a nun's cooch. Cozy fit. Super happy I did that thing for the mitre saw. I was in two minds about it. Speaking of minds, cast your mind back to when I was waiting for the glue to dry for the guide for the table saw. I'm just going to finish that off. A few more little odds and sods, and I think we'll pretty much be there. Woo! May seem simple, like, oh, routed that guide already, Simon. But to do so, because the table saw's in situ, I have to take the whole top off. Done myself up like a right kipper there, haven't I? A stage I've been oddly excited about. I'm going to secure it down with drywall screws just because they're plush. Now the woodworker community might be saying, why are you using plywood, Simon, you idiot, not MDF? I hate MDF with a passion. I like plywood because it's still wood. Time to give this table the treatment it deserves. I've gone with a polyurethane to make it all glossy. Ooh. Oh shit, that was easy. I'd say that was a day well spent, avoiding messages from my loved ones and general life admin responsibilities. Looking good, eh? I just got back from the best week of sailing with some wonderful people to Lulworth Cove. Subscribe if you want to see that. Never miss an opportunity. And it's time to finish this project. The end is properly in sight. I just need to tidy it up a bit and add some creature comforts, I think. Feels like, as you're watching all this juicy footage, it's only right for me to break down some costs so that you too may pursue this little garage dream. Tools aside, I spent around £110 on wood. All the fixings and finish I had laying around, but let's call that 20 quid. Labour, at a day rate of £200, works out to be right around the £26,200 mark. I guess there's only really one thing left to do. Ah, bollocks. Tell me about losing your virginity.